through dripping Aquafina, I'm sipping 15, kept a weapon on me. Flow make digits, I'm on my business, stack chicken like what it's gon' be. Crew in the cut, hey, you want us, red run when I tell a bit peace. Love is love. Love is love. Adios. Bendo with the switch again.
What's going on, guys? Live stream, take 3. We think we might have fixed it. We had some gobos from Fraggle Rock in there working on his mic. But, so, Thursday live stream. We're just going to start right from the beginning because we're going to get it right this time. But hey, Thursday live stream, CBSIBOLO list, week's hottest comic releases, and co-host Jack DeMeo. What's good?
What's up, comic fam? Jack DeMeo here, a.k.a. Mr. Bolo. Trying some new stuff out with some new equipment. Appreciate everybody in the chat, especially Matthew King, letting us know what was going on. If you're not in Matthew King's Google Plus community, and I don't know where he's moving it to, maybe MeWe or wherever it is, but you need to be.
Right, so bring us both in. So, we think we got the audio issues fixed. If it gets, well, I don't even have to ask if it gets bad, let us know, because they definitely let us know. But, so, as always, just act like you haven't seen this part before. This show is sponsored. It's brought to you by Slabbed Heroes. Nick Gortman at slabbedheroes.com. Great guy. Great prices for 9/8 slabs. Want them for a cheap price, definitely check them out. slabbedheroes.com. And I'll admit, if you guys watched last week and you looked at that graphic, I misspelled the freaking website. And after I saw it in the replay, I was a little pissed off at myself. Especially with all those student loans I'm paying off and I can't spell a damn website. But anyhow, definitely check out Nick at slabbedheroes.com. And like last week, we mentioned we were having a giveaway contest for the exclusive CBSI or comicbookinvest.com variant of Knights of Golden Sun #1. Correct?
Correct. So yeah, we did a giveaway all week. People have been able to comment on the replay from the last week's live stream. Let us know what you're looking for out of CBSI's variant program in the future. What artists you wanted us to work with, what publishers you wanted us to work with, what kind of concepts you were looking for, what genres. And we heard a lot of great feedback from the community, and I can guarantee you one thing. Regardless of who won, we were listening to what the community was saying. We've taken it into account, and we've definitely discussed it.
Right. So, real quick disclaimer, this live stream is filmed in front of a live studio audience. So, yeah, we make cuts, and then what we put on the air is going to be different. Just because we had audio issues. So, this was awesome. We'd gone through this before, but we're going through it again. And so everyone that made comments, we put them in random.org, created a list, generated a random list, and whoever came out on the top spot was the winner. And the winner for this contest was Michael Gomez. So congrats to Michael Gomez. If you're on here and seeing us for the 3rd time in the past 10 minutes, let us know. And if you're watching the replay, just make sure you email me at simplemanscomics@gmail.com and give me your address and we'll get that copy out to you. It's not coming from us, it's coming from the owner of comicbookinvest.com, but he gets it out real quick and you'll get your copy. So congrats to Michael Gomez. And then we're kind of catching up to where we left off, right?
Right. So
the main event.
Speaking of the main event, and speaking of things I spelled wrong.
Yeah. So the Bolo list for this week. I'm still getting over my cold, so I got a little bit of cough to my cold pop. But I'm getting the black lung. So Bolo list, a lot of great comics this week. Aquaman #45 had the first appearance of Nama or Mama. But so
yeah, this one challenges the term confirmed first appearance for sure. There's a lot of discussion in the community about what's going to be the first appearance. I know she showed up in some sort of cameo function in issue 43. There may have been even an appearance in 44. She fully appears in 45, but whether the market will call 43 the first appearance or whether the market will bear 45, I think is still going to be up in the air. She's very cool looking on the cover of cover A. So if you were speccing on the book, I think cover A over cover B is probably the way to go. But kind of has like a hella vibe to her, I would say. But yeah, so there really wasn't a lot of buzz on this book. But other than the possible first appearance, I didn't really see the market jumping on this book.
Right, and like I said, I know I went to the small Third Eye shop down here today, and there were still some copies up there. I did pick up a cover B for it, which I probably should have picked up cover A if I wanted to, in case it picks off right. But either way, it seems like Josh Middleton didn't do the B cover for this, correct? It was someone else.
I'm not sure who did the B. I don't know that it was Middleton.
Yeah, I don't think that's Middleton, but that's part of the reason why the cover cooled off, right? Because
right.
Middleton was doing them, and everyone was picking them all up just because Middleton fire.
Right, the residual fire coming off the Batgirl run.
I was just looking up real quick to see if fudge. Whatever. I was trying to look it up real quick to see who the artist was. But yeah. We're doing splendid tonight. Rolling with it. Oh, and then we got it's back. But
It's like we got more people rolling in the chat.
Yeah. But yeah,
make sure everybody, I see Matthew King talking about first smash that like button. We do a terrible job promoting. Make sure you smash that like button. Go ahead and make sure you're subscribed. Set that notification bell so we can let you know when we're going live. Especially in a situation like this where we got to go live 3 times.
Right. Yeah. It looks like we got a little bit of static coming back in. The next on the list was Avengers No Road Home #2, right?
Correct.
So I picked it up today. I haven't read it yet. I did enjoy the first issue, kind of set it up. I don't know exactly what went on in this second issue besides the last issue had, in the last page had Nyx physically sticking her hand through back of Scarlet Witch's head.
Right, and in this week we get a first appearance from her son, Hypnos.
Hypno Scream. But
another first appearance that didn't necessarily move the market. You didn't see a lot of people talking about this as a first appearance. I would say more accurately, readers are digging this series. I didn't read issue 2 myself yet, but now again, another first appearance. We're seeing first appearances every week, right. And I think it gets tough when these appearances pop up to always get excited by them. I see we got Comics Misexplained says it's the first appearance by NYX's whole crew. So there you go. So you have another team. But you're getting, these are unique characters, and if you can grab them at cover price, which that's what basically every non-ratio is going for. It's not bad to grab those kind of characters and throw them in a box because you never know what's going to happen. And we've talked about this before, that you don't want to be so flip-oriented. You want to make sure you have a long-term strategy as well. And because people are enjoying the series, that you may see these characters pop up again. But it's really tough to know on a short-term basis, on first appearances alone, for that to be a reason to speculate, because we see so many so often in the marketplace.
Right, and like I said, I really enjoyed the first issue, and I enjoyed Avengers No Surrender. So Al Ewing, he does a good job of writing, and of course, he's writing like one of the hottest comics out right now with Immortal Hulk. But so even if there's no spec to it, it's still a great read. I'll probably read issue number 2 this weekend. I just haven't gotten around to it with super busy week at work. But and you've been making your talking circuit across all these YouTube shows.
Right, too many appearances.
But the next one was Guardians of the Galaxy #2, and a lot of people seem to be frustrated. I think they were set up to believe something was going to happen, which didn't. Correct?
Right. You know what this really reminds me of? It reminds me of the Amazing Spider-Man, the end of Dan Slott's run with Red Goblin, where everyone is anticipating the new character. Everybody is jumping on pre-orders. We're seeing heavy pre-orders on issue 2 of Guardians. People were looking for that new Thanos that has been discussed, has been leaked, that there's been solicitation talk. So we know it's coming. And a lot of times when we know things are coming, companies will do this. They will tease but hold the character out, so we keep buying. Now, number 2 still featured a first appearance of the Dark Guardians. Again, whether this will be a full appearance or a cameo. We see them come together. They're not really named. We know who they are and who they're going to be, but we don't truly know if this is the Dark Guardians and this is going to hold up as a full first appearance. But again, this is a Donny Cates story. It's got a lot of buzz. It's got a lot of heat on the fact that that we're going to see new characters, and a lot of people are thinking that Thanos is going to have the new Thanos is going to have that cosmic Ghost Rider heat. I heard that from Mel V this week, CBSI member, that he really felt like that was going to have that level of heat.
Right. So, we'll get into one of the covers we'll get into down the line when we get into the variant buzz. But so the next one for the first appearance was the Miles Morales, right? The Miles Morales Spider-Man number 3.
Number 3, yeah. So talk about a character that makes you uncomfortable. This is the first appearance of I think Snatched or Snatcher, and he is, as his name sounds, he is a kidnapper. So this is one of those awkwardly uncomfortable characters, but definitely an easy villain and target for Miles to go after.
Right, and I picked up the movie variant just because I'm a huge fan of the Spider-Verse movie, which comes out the 26th, right? Next Tuesday. So if you didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters, Into the Spider-Verse hits digital Tuesday the 26th. I'm not sure when it hits Blu-ray, but I don't buy Blu-ray discs anymore. But so yeah, I picked up the movie variant, which was my favorite covers of all 3. So that kind of gets us through the first appearances for this week. Usually want to take a quick break. Welcome more people that have come into the chat. We got L. Mike. Comic Chief's still here. Also, definitely want to thank those of you that stayed with us through our audio issues, because I know nothing kills a video quicker than audio problems. But so thanks definitely for staying within the live stream for us as we work through some of these issues and get Jack all pumped up and pimped out on his audio and video tech. I was trying to distract the audio with my awesome new lights behind me, but it didn't work. So, Walt Parrish just came into the chat. Howdy. Tip the hat like so. And we're going to move into the Reader Buzz section of this week. So, of course, the big Reader Buzz, which everyone's well aware of right now, is Mad Cave's Knights of the Golden Sun number 4 came out this week, correct?
Correct. So we talked about Knights of the Golden Sun a little bit earlier with talking about our CBSI exclusive number 1 variant from comicbookinvest.com, which sold out in a quick 27 or so hours. But this week we see the release of issue number 4, and the trend continues. You see an instant sellout. I went and actually made it to the LCS this week, and was thing that we hear from the community is the difficulty buying this book and finding this book. You're talking about a really low print run book that, again, people are still just raving about the art, raving about the story. And when you look on the secondary market, the book's already selling just a day later, $10, about $8 to $10. We're seeing $7.99 to $9.99 sales.
Right, and so I went by. I actually have this in my pool box at the smaller Third Eye store, and I went by today to pick up my stuff. And they just started like an online pull box recently, especially for the smaller store. The bigger stores kind of had it, but this issue, and then the last issue of these Savage Shores that I got there, and they were just like, my bad, but they do have it on order, so I'll get it at another date. I didn't get to read this issue yet, but I did get to read an advanced copy of their title they got coming out next week, Honor and Curse number 1, which is written by the same writer, and it's just as good as this story has been. So that sets up nicely, and people say, "Oh, you're just pumping indie books," but I advocate what I like, and I buy what I like, and Mad Cave and Vault are two companies that I've been enjoying their stories lately. So that's the Golden Sun. I'm not the only one that thinks that way, evidently, because people are buying it.
Definitely. We saw that. The feedback we're getting constantly is that people wish that they wouldn't have slept on the variant, that they would have jumped on it quicker, that they didn't realize we were going to sell out as fast. So the demand is there for Knights of the Golden Sun. People love this series, and it's really good to see. It's good to see from a small publisher. Hopefully they can grow. LCS and start ordering more copies. Make sure you let your LCS know, get into contact with them in advance so you don't run into the problem like I did, where I tried to grab a copy and was unable to.
Right, and I just totally lost my train of thought. So, I don't know where I was going. So, when I first read about Knights of the Golden Sun, what actually made me interested in that book is the storyline reminded me of the Diablo video game with the angels and the guardians fighting, and so that's when I picked it up. I actually missed out on the first issue, but I was trying to do an act of kindness and send that guy on Instagram a copy of the second print Savage Shores Human Dracula homage, and then he asked me if I had the first copy of Knights of the Golden Sun. I said no, not the regular issue. So we basically traded on Instagram, and I just got it this week. So I was happy to get that. But great story if you guys haven't been reading it. Sorry to beat a dead horse, but definitely give it a chance and at least pick it up and trade it, because I doubt you'll regret reading it. But next in the reader buzz, this was another kind of hot issue this week, was Venom number 11, right?
Yeah, this was a big one for readers, for sure. It's another Donny Cates hype machine book. So this one was heavily teased on Twitter. He let everybody know that this was going to be an important issue. A lot of people were thinking that meant first appearance, but that isn't really the case. Instead, we got the definition of a character. We learned a character's true identity, true relationship to Eddie Brock. There was also that Watchmen variant that was heavily spec'd on and talked about. It was another one where we saw a lot of sellouts of that one kind of quickly. Also, the Skrulls variant did pretty well as well. But I don't know whether or not I want to spoil the events of the book, but they point to that young boy that's been in the story throughout this run, who first appeared in issue 9, cameoed in issue 7, and now we're finding out through Twitter actually cameoed in issue 2, because there's one panel where he appears.
Right.
Turns out he's a much bigger character than we initially thought. So that actually brings me to some kind of Bolo live stream news here. But we've added a new piece to the Bolo article on comicbookinvest.com. Wanted to really make it more of what comicbookinvest.com does great, with excellent write-ups and commentary. And the Bolo list is just a snapshot list of what's going on New Comic Book Day. And we have this forum to come here and talk about books. And I wanted to do something for comicbookinvest.com. So we have a new feature called Back Issue Bolos. And they will be back issues that tie in to this week's news, whether media or speculation, or especially the Bolo list itself. And no book drew more back issue sales than this book. People were jumping all over Venom issue 9, all over Venom issue 7. When I was at my LCS, I happened to see some issue 9s on the shelf, and I grabbed 3 copies. That actually wasn't a book I had any copies of. So the community is jumping all over these books. Whether or not they will spike, we will see. The word is definitely out there. Most speculation communities have spoke on it. But it really depends on where Cates takes this character. But I think when you're speculating and putting money into Marvel characters, I think Donny Cates characters are a safe place to put your money.
Right, and I did see the tweet. Donny Cates said, "Yeah, go back to issue 2 that he had put clues in there or something like that." But
let me ask you a question: do you think that would invalidate issue 7? If issue 9 is a first full appearance and issue 7 is a cameo, Does the fact that he actually cameoed in issue 2 make 7 kind of worthless?
I would kind of think so, but at the same time, if I'm Donnie Cates, I'm gonna put you on the hook for all of it because I'm a creator. I'm trying to sell comics, so I'm gonna sit there and make it not. I'm not putting words in his mouth because then people say, "Oh," but that's what I would do if I was the creator. I'd be like, "No, they're all important. They all." And then as you see that he puts a lot is wait till you see where this is going and stuff like that in his tweets, right? So,
he's definitely a salesman. And I agree with Matthew King in the chat that the market decides, but I think as speculators, what we have to try to do is predict what the market will decide. Now, we're not always right, but that's our task as speculators. That's what we're trying to do here. And this is one of those things happening in real time. I mean, I'm on the mic asking, but I don't know any more than you do, and I'm out here taking that chance. Like I said, I grabbed 3 copies, cover price, didn't take any sort of real risk, but I think that it's going to be tough. But I asked the question really even for myself because I think if I was at a store right now and I saw copies of number 7 on the shelf, I would grab them. But I think after seeing that panel of number 2, I suddenly get a little less excited about that book. And then my other question is, how important is issue 2 in the grand scheme of things? Because you're only looking at one panel, one picture. I know you can draw the comparison to Hulk 180, but I mean, I don't think that that's a relevant comparison.
right.
But so I think it's, I think it's going to be tough. But I think the safest bet is issue 9. I think putting your money into issue 9 is probably your safest bet.
All right, I'm in another conversation in the chat. So we're talking also about shows that would be great for other shows that would be great for Netflix. And Seven to Eternity was brought up, and then I also brought up Realm. And then I know Realm is Image, but is it part of the Skybound imprint of Image? Because I know Kirkman has that exclusive deal with Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
So I can't remember if Realm was the Skybound imprint or Top Cow or one of those other Image imprints. But Realm's fantastic. I'm like 6 issues behind though, but
oh yeah, trust me, I can't wait to talk to you guys about Netflix, but I'm going to save that one for the pick of the week. And then we're going to do some serious Netflix discussion.
Netflix. I don't know why I just did that. But all right, so the next one, I don't know if you really do you want to talk about it again? We kind of touched on it with Guardians of the Galaxy number 2. Do you want to touch on Reader Buzz or you just want to?
Yeah, we don't really need to. It's just another hot Kate's book. We'll save it till we get to the variant.
Yeah. But wait, there's more. So, next one. Nightwing number 57 had the Mooneyham regular cover, then had the Jeff DeCall variant. And my weekly picks probably like 2 months ago, they had Midtown had the solicit for a Mooneyham variant that had the DeCall cover. So I had it in there. I was like, this doesn't look like Mooneyham art to me, but I put it in there anyways like an idiot. And I was definitely informed that, hey, that's DeCall. And then if you look at the actual picture, it does have DeCall's name in the print. So, yeah, I messed that up a couple months ago. But it's out this week. And I couldn't decide which cover I liked better because both of them to me were fantastic.
Right, I was in the same boat on this one, and I actually grabbed a couple copies of each cover. So this book right here, he literally told me he would freak out if I didn't make sure I gave him his credit. But after the Tales from the Flip Side, After Dark chat, Mel V made sure to hammer home this book, his belief in this book. And you know what? I always say, the Bolo list doesn't come from Mr. Bolo. It comes from the community. It comes from what other people say. And let me tell you something. He sold me on this book because you have Dwella Dent returning, the Joker's daughter. And most people were kind of paying attention to this variant cover, this Jeff DeCall variant cover. It has a real cool kind of gothic vibe that goes well with most of what goes on in Gotham City. It plays really well with Nightwing's character. I think that it's stunning. It was definitely going to be a variant that people paid attention to. But cover A is actually, again, kind of like how we talked about Aquaman, the cover that I like better. Now, speculators have been down this road before. Specifically, I've been down this road before. So it's hard for me to get too hype about Dwella Dent, a.k.a. Joker's daughter. Because if you remember from the New 52, she came back to heavy hype.
Yeah, with those lenticular covers, right?
Right. I mean, if you remember that cover, that and Harley Quinn and Joker were the ones to get. Catwoman 23 took off. I will admit, for speculators, that was back issue gold for a while because you would pick it up in dollar bins and flip it for $15 pretty easily. The second print is even rarer than the first print, and would get the same kind of money, but for some reason I found it probably just as regularly. But she's coming back, and the potential for this character is just as big now as it was, say, 3 years ago or 4 years ago during the New 52 time when we were talking about her. Children of characters have done well. The child of the Joker could be an exceptional character. She could be a great foil for Nightwing. Obviously, it sets up as a possible really cool character for Damian. It all kind of depends on what are DC's long-term plans. And we felt like as a kind of a spec community and a comic community, we got fooled last time because everybody jumped on board of the Joker's daughter train, and then she was gone. And after the Death in the Family storyline and kind of like the next subsequent storyline, we didn't see her again. And it's one of those things where, we are all kind of a what have you done for me lately community when it comes to comics, especially on the secondary market. So once she wasn't showing up in storylines, people got less interested, and those Catwoman 23 issues kind of fell back into discount bins. But that brings us again back to comicbookinvest.com, where on my back issue Bolo list, I again said, check out those Catwoman 23s. Make sure you're checking those out. That is the first appearance of this incarnation of Dwella Dent. She first appeared, of course, in the Batman Family #6, which I think was in the 70s. But that's a good book, and that book will definitely spike if the character spikes. But really, the first appearance of this incarnation of the character is Catwoman 23 from the New 52. Like I said, there's a first and a second print. And then I also mentioned that right now Hot Topic, because this character has been nothing, Hot Topic made a Bombshells Funko Pop that sold so little it ended up on clearance for $7.50 and is available at HotTopic.com. And I think, if you invest in comics or if you invest in toys, either way, if this character takes off, I think they'll both take off. But as I finish that up, I want to send a shout out to our guy Bueller in the chat with the super chat. Much appreciated, my man, the $5 super chat. We are so eternally grateful. And if you guys are not following Bueller, you need to be following Bueller. He's a full-time YouTuber. Great guy. Absolute leader in the YouTube comic community. And he does a great job interaction with his community. So if you're not a member of Bueller's community, the Bueller Brigade, then you need to get on board and jump over on his channel and make sure you're subscribing.
Blue Green Artifact says there's a Bueller Netflix series coming. He heard. Should be. I mean, yeah. Bueller's one of the nicest, most genuine guys you meet in comics, and there's a reason why his channel does so well. Because great guy. Definitely appreciate the super chat. I almost cut Jack off when he was talking because when it came through, I got excited. But
I could tell. I could see it in your face.
I was like Bueller. I was like Ben Stein Bueller. But yeah, speaking of super chats, one thing I was trying to do or start to work on is make it somewhat interactive, so it's not just like a super chat where either the new LED light strips I got behind me or something. So if a super chat comes in, Internet of Things is a great thing, right? Super chat comes in, you control blink the lights or do whatever. So we're looking into doing that. But definitely thanks for the $5 super chat, and great synopsis on Nightwing. Just a nice, I won't say dissertation because that just sounds boring, but a lot of good info. But I'll admit, I haven't read Nightwing in probably about 12 issues. I was big on it when they were doing the whole big Bloodhaven arc.
Yeah.
Reading it a lot then, but this cover, when it came back out, I was like, ooh, even though I put the decal cover back in the day and was like, my bad. But so the next one, which we're getting into reader buzz here, is it's kind of special for you, right?
Right. Yeah, this was a unique week on the Bolo list because I actually got to have some kind of first-hand experience with a book on the list.
Right. So I got your picture up where you're there with your family. I'm just kidding. But and then the picture of the covers. So why don't you tell us about your little trip yesterday and your adventure with Incursion?
Right. So yesterday I was at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find in Charlotte, North Carolina. They are the promoters of the famous Heroes Con, the largest independently run comic convention in the country. It is purely comics. Tons of great indie creators, and you will see CBSI in the building big time. But yeah, so I got a chance to go out there. Robert Myers, who's the managing editor of Valiant Comics, was in the building along with, I cannot remember their names. I should have made sure I had them written down right before the show. But they had the head of social media and the head of sales there. So it was a really unique opportunity on a day of a major release for a company to get to talk to the people who are at the top of said company. So it was really exciting, and I read 3 books this week, and this was one of them, and I am thoroughly impressed. So I got a chance to talk to them about this book. This book was featured on Andy's Indie Spotlight series on comicbookinvest.com. So, honestly, it wasn't a book that was really high on my radar until Andy brought it up, and then I was like, okay, another Valiant release, maybe need to check this out. And then when I saw the announcement for Heroes doing the event in Charlotte, which is literally right down the road from me, I said, well, okay, I'm going to check this out. So, I got a chance to interview Dinesh Shamdasani, who was the CEO of Valiant a couple years ago for comicbookinvest.com, and at that time I met Robert, who actually also happens to be the brother-in-law of comicbookinvest.com writer Jason Shaw. So it's a pretty small world, but he is now the head man in charge, and I gotta say, as far as somebody being in charge of Valiant, he has kind of that Dinesh passion and flair for the Valiant universe. The thing about Valiant is it's really tough that they don't get a better market share because the books are incredibly well written. Incursion is no different. Incursion is a brand new story. A lot of people say because Valiant has a long history, they don't know where to start. The great thing about Valiant is because it tends to be a series of mini-series, you can jump on at any time. I started reading the trade paperback The Valiant, which I would highly suggest. I think it's Matt Kint and Jeff Lemire did that. And when I read The Valiant, I thought it was real. I got it instantly. I was like, okay, this is why you can jump in at any point, because just the way the writing was, it's like they were very descriptive. So when they talked about a character, they would find ways to slip in history. They made sure you knew everything you needed to know, and it allowed you to just effortlessly read. And I started reading a lot of Valiant trades. And honestly, I got away from that after they let go of Dinesh, and then they had issues with the Chinese owners, DMG. It's a Chinese movie company, and they really haven't put out as many releases. They've got away from scheduling, and the company has kind of taken a step back. But it's good to see now that Robert Myers is in charge, that they've got a new release that they're hyped about. And Andy actually sent me with a couple questions. He wanted to know these new characters, these alien characters that are appearing in this issue. Is it a true first appearance? Have they ever appeared before in the Valiant universe? And are there plans going on long term? And I will tell you straight from the managing editor, Robert Myers, they are true first appearances. They have never appeared before in a comic book. And he said, Valiant, they don't always plan long term what they're going to do with said characters, but when they create characters like this, there's a reason. And they plan on pulling them back out of the toy box again. So, if I'm specking on this book, I would say that the two best covers to go with are the cover B, where I think it's the De La Rosa cover, where you have the kind of juxtaposition of the Eternal Warrior and the Geomancer and the two new characters on the bottom, or the cover, the last cover with the big bad alien on the front. I actually forgot her name, but the standout thing about this series is the artwork. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's not a quick read. You're gonna definitely have to sit down and give this time. But I'm really, really impressed with it. I also got to see some stuff coming out in the future, and there was an announcement a week ago. I don't know if a lot of people saw it or if they're familiar with Valiant's history, but Psylords was an original Valiant release. It was actually owned by Acclaim. Valiant has brought it back. They've released some imaging, promo image with Rod Reese, and I got a chance to look at the Psylords artwork. I forgot the name of the artist. He's done some work on Superman. He did Divinity Zero, but the artwork is amazing. I can't say anything on the mic that's going to sell this artwork as well as I can. The best thing I can tell you is what I told Robert Myers, which is that it looks to me like Lee Bermejo and Batman Dan. It's painted art. The emotion that is drawn from it's incredible. I don't know that that's necessarily going to push Psylords or make anybody want to buy Psylords, but the product they put out is absolutely incredible. You cannot argue the quality. I think where you can argue and where people have problems with Valiant is what they've done on the secondary market. They've never been able to sustain. But as we've also seen in the chat, 2020, we're getting a Bloodshot movie. Sony seems really happy with this movie. I've had contact with Dinesh Shamdasani, who's let me know how excited he is about this movie. So you know, that was the thing I brought up to Valiant. I asked him, I said, you know, are you guys going to capitalize from the publishing side when this movie comes out? And they said, absolutely. They've got plans in place. And, you know, the hope is that with the movie, new fans will be exposed to the Valiant universe and jump on. And, you know, I know I have the reputation in CBSI as being a Valiant guy, but the truth is I never read Valiant till I interviewed them, and then I was so impressed with their people and the passion that they had for comics that I grabbed some trades, which I paid for, went home, read them, and just loved it. Absolutely. And I enjoy it. And what I like about it is I don't know a lot, but you can jump in at any point, and I absolutely recommend. And the great thing about Valiant is while it is a shared universe, there's something for everybody. There's comedy in Quantum and Woody. There's, you know, old age kind of you know, medieval type battling with Eternal Warrior. There's a tech spacecraft kind of battle with Exo Manowar. You've got Ninjak or Ninja K, kind of an assassin. So there's so many great characters. You've got horror with Shadow Man. And when you look at their writers, they've got a lot of top end writers. Matt Kint does writing with them. They've got Andy Diggle and a new writer that they brought in that I'm a real big fan of is Teenie Howard, and so that they have a lot of new stuff coming on the horizon. But I was pleasantly surprised with Incursion. I admit that I probably wouldn't have picked it up if the Valiant thing wasn't set up and Andy didn't talk about it. But I am glad I did. I probably won't grab issue 2 because I'll wait and read it in the trade. But I am probably going to go back and grab more issue number 1s and just throw them in the box, because I think there's a good chance, and it's at least worth some long-term spec, low-risk cover price buys that Valiant might pop off in the next year with that movie coming out.
Sorry, freaking cough, man. So, yeah, I'll admit I'm not a big Valiant reader. Like I said in the chat, I hardly ever have Valiant in my weekly picks, and it's nothing negative to Valiant. It's just I don't want to say saturation, but with all the comics that are released, I hardly have time to read the books that I'm dying to read, that I don't really try anything new outside of stuff that gets emailed to me or something every now and then. But I did pick up, was it Masafura did, which I probably butchered that name. What was it, Divinity? Or one of those Valiant titles where Masafura did a couple nice variants for. So I picked a couple of those up just for the art. And I'm sure at some point I will pick up a trade and start reading some Valiant, because I know the people that like Valiant, like isn't even the right word to use for it. It's like, if you're a fan of Valiant, you're a freaking fan of Valiant. I mean, it's like the way I like Mad Cave and Vault, people are like in Valiant books.
Right. It's a whole nother universe as vast as Marvel. So there's so much there that you can get sucked in. But my suggestion to you, Brian, if you're going to start somewhere, start with the Valiant. I think it's a good jumping on point. I think it's an easy read.
I keep sipping my water to help soothe my cough. But hey, next one. This one was, I mean, it's been popular since its release, but it seems like within the past few weeks, it's definitely really getting popular. And that's Die number 1. And this is actually the third print that you have up here, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And so this is another book that was heavily featured. I think everybody has talked about that book.
Yeah, I jumped on it just for the Stephanie Hans art.
Right. You had it. I know Adam Lebednik talked about it in the Wednesday one. Excuse me. Andy from the Indie Spotlights immediately on release day. We also ran a contest a good 2-3 weeks before the release of this book on the website with one of our partners for an store exclusive variant. So, this book a lot of people talked about, but didn't have, say, the buzz on release day that it has built into now. I didn't jump on the book myself. You know what? I think it was a stupid reason. I don't love the design of the covers. They threw me off. I hate when a lot of like the covers have like, I want to see an image. I don't want to see too much like almost graphic design.
Yeah,
but
graphics and.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, we make decisions when we're at the comic book shop. You can't buy everything.
But what about the Jim Bartel covers are more regular?
Well, you're right, but I think the shop that I go to, I don't see those as often. And I didn't pre-order this book. It wasn't like a pre-order book. But that's why I put the third print on the list right now. Andy put a graphic up on Instagram showing the sales of this book. You're starting to see this book move. Now, you're seeing sales 2 times cover, maybe 3 times cover, but a lot of sales are also at cover. But the point is you're seeing volume. The book is moving. The demand is there for that book, and you're seeing it. I've heard quotes on this book like it's saga-esque, and that's a big statement to make. So this week, I grabbed this book, I picked it up, I read it, and let me tell you something. Andy, in his article, had a line where he said at the end of issue 1, he was left wanting more. That's exactly how I felt. I finished issue 1, and I was disappointed that my LCS didn't have issue 2 and issue 3. So, I was debating, do I run and jump and buy that one online, or am I going to wait for the trade? But this is definitely an exciting read. I think there's a lot of potential in this book.
Right. So when I was looking today, I happened to look at the back issues at the LCS, and they had a first print copy of Die number 1. And I pulled it off the shelf and I started looking at it and kind of saw why it was still on the shelf, because there was a bunch of color-breaking spine ticks. There's probably about 9 or 10 of them. But I will tell you, Jetpack Comics, if you go on their website, they have an exclusive Virgin variant on there for like $19. That's been selling for about $30 on eBay right now, and they're in stock.
That's a good bolo there.
Yep. So if someone's looking for them, Jetpack Comics. I forget the extra URL, but if you Google Jetpack, it's in there. They got a bunch of exclusives, but Die number 1's on there too, and I think it's $19 for their exclusive Virgin. I can't remember if it's foil or not. I know it's Virgin variant. And
I see it. Go ahead and finish up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I said, it's been selling on eBay lately. I think there was couple sales yesterday for like $30 or so.
I just saw in the chat, Blue Green Artifacts mentioned a Shadow Man 13 first pump Mambo 1 in 50 Zercher variant sold for $350, and I actually completely forgot to mention that in the back of Incursion is actually a preview for Punk Mambo number 1. And the art is kind of crazy on that. And from what I saw, it looks like everything you'd want out of Harley Quinn, kind of like a more badass version of Harley Quinn, less of that Deadpool jokey-esque stuff. So I would definitely check out Punk Mambo. I cannot speak on the variant that I heard about. I was kind of sworn to secrecy, but be on the lookout for the Punk Mambo #1 1 in 100 variant, which should be announced in the next few days. Valiant has a reputation for doing some crazy concepts on variants, from metal to cracked glass to mirrored designs. Yeah, you're going to see another one in the next couple days.
Mambo #5. Remember that old 90s song?
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were talking about. We're old.
But I was trying. Oh, here it is. Also in the chat previously, Roger Heller had a question. He heard DC is canceling some distribution of some of their comics. Is that true? Did he hear it right, or what's going on? I haven't heard that. Have you heard anything about?
I have not. No, I have not heard that.
I don't know if that's like. I've heard rumors about Batman Damned has been put on hiatus, which also might be canceled. I mean, I've heard a couple rumors, but I haven't heard anything as far as specific distribution. So if someone else in the chat has heard something like that, also by all means go ahead and comment, because I'm not aware of it as right now. But moving into that, kind of finishes up Variant Buzz. And Jovi Poptography, thank you so much. Another super chat. Fort Hood, Texas. So, military?
Much appreciated.
Yeah, much. I can use it to buy cough medicine. Good Lord. But,
yes.
I've been on Mucinex, Robitussin. But, anyway, yeah, Fort Hood. My brother's on recruiting duty in San Antonio down in good old Texas. If you're a Cowboys fan, though.
And I see in the chat we've got Ron DeCorkill says, love my CBSI Knights of the Golden Sun. If you have Instagram, post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook. Make sure to tag us and we will repost.
Tag AKA Mr. Bolo, Simpleman's Comics, Comic Book Invest for sure. I got mine today too. It seems like a lot of people are getting theirs in, so I actually got 2 copies. Bought 2 copies. So. And what I liked is Ben wasn't cheap, man. He shipped them out in nice little mylights. So, and they're numbered on the back. Actually, I don't know if you can see, if I can get it in here. So I actually got issue number 2. So hooked me up. But so yeah, they shipped Monday.
Yeah, so everybody should be getting them today, tomorrow, next day or so. Obviously international is going to take a little longer, but they are on the way. Yeah,
because I've started seeing them on Instagram today. In fact, one of the Patreon members put his on there, and I gave him crap. I said, "Screw you, man! I haven't gotten mine yet." But then I didn't check the mail either, so I got mine today as well. But so Reader Buzz. Next, we're gonna get into Variant Buzz here, and we kind of talked on it a little bit before, which was the DeCall variant, right, for Nightwing.
Correct, yes. The DeCall variant was sold out at most major online retailers. Midtown was sold out. I was able, like I said, to grab a couple of copies. I didn't hit the LCS till it had been open for a couple hours. There was a couple copies there. Didn't seem to be a lot of local demand around me for the book, but I like the cover. Like I said, I talked about it a little earlier, but it wasn't one that I thought was gonna a really pop in the short term. I think it's more of will the guts of the book pay off? Will Dwella Dent become a real character to hold on to long term? If she does, cover A has her on the cover, but cover B's, those tend to be what the market ends up choosing quite often.
Right. And I even had fun with the CBSI Instagram post where I basically took the DeCall variant and added a little flash of light on his baton there and had birds flying in the background. I was really proud of that while I was taking a poop. But
it's another one that'll look really great in 9/8.
Yeah. So I'm a fan of DeCall. A lot of times I'll buy his books just for him alone. But next up, the Third Eye shop, which I keep saying, which is the smaller one down in Southern Maryland, not the big one up in Annapolis. They usually get unless you have a pull box, you can get your, and you have it reserved. The cover Bs, a lot of them they only get like maybe 2 or 3 copies, and they go quick. And normally it's my buddy Matt because he gets there when the store opens, and I'm at the bus stop getting my pre-K kid off the bus. But high level #1, Matina, right? Some stores are even selling this for $9, like out the door, like.
Yeah, this was another one. It didn't hit my radar till the last second, so I don't know whether or not this was on people's radar early on. It didn't look like it was heavily ordered. It's a DC Vertigo release, and it's a cover B Matina. It still has the trade dress, so it's not like Vertigo's not doing, say, what the regular DC is doing, but definitely a really dope cover. I also could not find easy, accessible copies of the Matina cover. I did grab a cover A. I plan on reading it to check out the series. So time will tell on like the secondary market value of the book. But I agree, yeah, just based on the Matina name alone, it's kind of like the Todd McFarlane Spawn move, where it's like, I know what's going on with Matina is going on, but it's evident that the guy still moves product. And when you look at the situation that went on with Rags and what's going on with Magical Beatdown, and I think that the reality is, if you're a comic creator, getting sales of any kind are beneficial, and cover art does draw and drive sales. So, I think that this was definitely one that was selling out more for the art on the cover rather than the guts of the book. The other thing to note was it's another one that was sold out at Midtown. One of the big talks of this week's release week was the events kind of going on with the Midtown website. Brian, I don't know if you were familiar with that, but they ended up putting like 12 books on a 1 per order limit. Yeah, apparently there's a mechanism now in the website that when people try to jump on and order too many copies, it's alerting the site, and then they're changing it to a 1 per order.
Or people go in and put like a large quantity just so they can kind of see how many are in stock.
Yep.
Which I think they put a limit on that now, where you can only see like 25 or something like that.
Yeah, there used to be a go around, and it looks like that they've shut down that go around. So, that I think, while it was a beneficial tool, is a good thing, because people can affect the market in different ways. But you got to look at it from their perspective as a retailer. That's kind of information you don't necessarily want the customer to have. The limiting to 1 per, that affects the way that a lot of speculators do things. That definitely is going to change the game up, because Midtown is the place where a lot of people go to grab their last-second grabs on books they missed. But that's why we advocate at CBSI. Pre-order. Get a relationship with your LCS. If you don't have an LCS, get a relationship with an online LCS. We've talked about, a great option for pre-orders is the sponsor right here, Nick from SlabbedHeroes.com. Another great option is Mill Geek Comics Patreon, another partner of CBSI. So there are options out there for you if you don't have a place to pre-order comics. But pre-ordering is so essential, because if you were able to pre-order pre-FOC, a lot of these books that were selling out, whether it's the Venom 11 Watchmen variant, whether it's the DeCall Nightwing 57 variant, whether it's various covers of our long-term pick of the week, Sharky the Bounty Hunter. If you pre-order, you can usually lock those covers in. You can get multiples, you can get quantity, and usually you can get a hefty discount.
Right. And holy cow. Sorry, coughing right in the mic. Speaking of Mill Geek, he's like moving, right, to a bigger location?
Yeah, just got the new store. Kind of putting everything together. It looks great. So that's exciting. He's a guy who's been in business for a number of years, but has literally been in the back of a 7-Eleven. Like, he wasn't even street accessible. So, and I think a lot of his success has come from his work on the mic. I think that he's really built a following. But he's another guy like Bueller, likable guy. I I said to Tom the last time I talked to him, I said, man, I wish he was my LCS. I wish he was down the street from me.
He said selling out of the back of 7-Eleven. I just picture a guy selling comics and like bootleg VHS copies of Clueless, which I bought, by the way, when I was in high school because I loved Alicia Silverstone. But
I
so
still love bootleg movies.
Yeah. You mentioned it had the trade dress. I actually think the trade dress goes well on this cover, though. It doesn't distract from the cover. Because there was I forget. I think Aquaman was one of them where I actually liked the regular cover, but then when you went and saw it with the trade dress, it kind of just like threw you off a little bit. But as I take that off. The next one we had was if I can get it back here. The Avengers Gerald Perel variant, right? Perel.
Right.
This was my pick of the week. I love this cover. It kind of reminded me of like the Melina Miss Marvel cover, right? When she's like blowing the bubble gum or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a real good comparison.
Yeah. So when I saw this, it popped, and a lot of stores had regular prices. I know some LCS. I forget if this was one of the ones where you had to order and qualify for, but love this cover, and the buy-in for it was really cheap. So I definitely I picked up 2 copies just to have.
Yeah, this is one the prime example of what I was just talking about pre-ordering. If you ordered from an LCS large enough to qualify, because I do think, I think you were right that this was like a qualify type variant, then you can order all you want. And this is a book right now selling for $10 to $15. I think it's going to continue to trend upwards. I really like the art. We've talked about it on previous shows. Timing is right for Captain Marvel. You got the movie coming out, reviews. We saw some bad stuff, and then now we've been followed up with some really good stuff. So I personally think the movie's going to be a hit. I think everything Marvel puts up is swish, so I think that it's going to continue to be like that, at least for the time being. I was unable to grab the book at my LCS. I'm really glad I pre-ordered some. I'm really mad that I didn't pre-order more. So it is definitely a book to be on the lookout for if you're hitting shops, if you live in bigger areas, larger cities, where you have bigger LCSs, and maybe that there's still copies on the shelf. But I agree. I did see at another store where they had that book priced at $10 on release day. So there are some LCSs that will play that game. I personally hate that. I understand, but it's a new release book. I wish they would just, price it at new release pricing. But
right, but I saw even some like online retailers that normally sell $3.99 or whatever cover is. Some of them had it listed for $9 already. I started thinking at one point it might have been like a 1 in 10 or something like that, but so.
It seems to be, and we'll have to see if it continues this way, a trend that these books you have to qualify for, that some stores are putting premium pricing on them. But, and I don't know that I mind that so much. If they're doing it because of the secondary market boom, I don't know if I love that. Because if you're going to start selling books for $10 just because they're going for $10 on eBay that are coming out for a cover price, then you need to start selling, books that are selling for $2 on release date, and that's not going to happen. So, I'm not a big fan of that, but we'll have to just pay attention to that trend and see which direction that goes in the future.
One thing that I don't like is everyone's well aware the movie's coming out, but I hate it when like Marvel's like, oh, the movie's coming out, and by marketing they push Captain Marvel covers and books down your freaking throat. Like they got a new Captain Marvel title, Braver, Bolder, whatever, coming out next week or something like that as well. But I did love this cover. But next on the variant buzz, we talked about the regular cover more earlier, but Matteo Scalera, man, his cover work of the past few weeks has been hot, and this was a 1 in 25 incentive variant, I believe, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and Scalera is on fire right now.
Oh.
You hear me?
Barely. We can barely hear you.
Let's see, I just adjusted it. How are we doing now?
That's better.
All right. Yeah, so Scalera is on fire right now. You know, I think he's one of probably 3 or 4 artists we've talked about in the last few weeks that seem to be in this like group of artists that are next up to break into that upper echelon of artists. He's starting to get more work too. So we also saw him release a variant for Sharky the Bounty Hunter from Image Comics this week. But this book was the easy pick of the week for most speculators. Everybody was jumping on it. Again, a lot of reason was because people anticipated the first appearance of Thanos, the new Thanos.
Right.
And you know, yeah, so they were thinking that this was going to have that, you know, that Thanos 13 Albuquerque kind of heat. And that didn't happen. When I went to my LC, who usually is very fair on variant pricing, they actually had it priced at $65. So they were pricing up to what, you know, the pre-order pricing on a lot of people. But we're seeing coming in the last several weeks that, you know, after books have been successful, when there's the next book comes out that's anticipated to be successful, people are driving prices up pre-release. And they're doing so without the real demand for that, because now you're seeing this sell for about $40. So while $40 is good and it's above ratio, if you were buying this book at ratio for 25, you can't really sell it for 40 and make any real money once you take out, you know, your shipping and your eBay fees and everything like that. So since you don't have the guts to really support this book taking off, because again, I don't know if the Dark Guardians are going to be anything more than a you know, a cameo, I don't even know if the price will hold at 40, but I certainly don't think it's going to gain a ton. So I think that this may actually be a book that was anticipated to be a monster, but may be, you know, not kind of underwhelming.
Right. And I'm not a big fan of the cover art. I think Mateus Scalera, his covers he's done lately have been good. But to me, this was, I got turned off because it almost was like a rehash of covers we've seen from Cosmic Ghost Rider, like the J. Scott Campbell one. I think Stephanie Hans had one. There's been a couple incentive variants with that almost side view of motorcycle type thing, so it kind of gets burnt out from it. But
yeah, even more is the Thanos 13. I think it's the third print. It's a Jeff Shaw cover, and it looks just like this with the big kind of like gun bubble, and yeah, it's definitely a little bit redundant. I think if speculators are being honest and they're not trying to pump and dump their own books, they jumped on this because of Thanos' son. He didn't appear. Right. So it's kind of a swing and miss.
But yeah, I mean, I picked up the regular cover just because I liked the first issue of Guardians of the Galaxy. But so next on the variant buzz, I'm just going to put them both up here. We had the Adam Kubert and we had the Adi Granov. The Granov was an incentive, right? 1 in 25. I think
1 in 25.
And the Kubert was regular price, but I don't know if you had to qualify for it or not.
It seems like it was.
Yeah.
See, it looks to be the most limited of the open order Return to Wolverine variants. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I think the Granov was great. It's just there was a Virgin store exclusive. I forget what couple shops that were selling with it. Like depending on how you look at it, kind of hurt the value. I don't, if you want to say value, hurt this book, because one, a lot of those stores could order those variants, the Virgin variant, and then they could use those also to qualify for the 1 in 25s to pick up as well. So depends on how you look at it. Me, if you're a fan of Granov and you like the cover, buy what you like. But I know that argument's out there, and it's a legit argument.
Well, so yeah, I kind of completely agree. I love the Adi Granov cover here. I think it's amazing. And the last sale I saw on eBay before this show went live was $12.95 plus $3.99 shipping. So you're looking at like half ratio. This was a book that I almost picked up a couple copies of at ratio. I think that originally I had planned on it, but I think you hit the nail on the head that Virgin variant release, I think really has tanked this book. what happens when these books get released simultaneously like that is you've instantly created a more collectible version of the book. And collectors, especially hardcore collectors, they have a tendency, and kind of rightfully so, to always want the best and most valuable and rarest item. So in this case, it is rarer to have the store variant, most likely, than to have the 1 in 25 variant, because there will probably be more than a 1,000 of the 1 in 25 variant. And honestly, even if it isn't rarer, just the way we talk about have a tendency to go based upon trends. The trend is to grab these virgin covers. So, this one is really tough. This is disappointing. I think in a environment 5 years ago where store variants weren't so prevalent, and when the restrictions and demand on store variants were different, I think that this book probably we would have been looking at a $50, $60 book. I think on the artwork and the popularity of the character, I think you'd have it. So I can't speak for Ben C., the owner of CBSI, but when we talk about our variant program and wanting to create unique collectibles and not do anything to damage the hobby, I know people can point to the Adam Hughes Sabrina Virgin variant that came out from what's it called? Stadium Comics, and I know that went up to $200. But I think that's the exception to the rule, not like the standard. Like I said, I can't speak for Ben C., but it's not something I would vote to do. It's not something I would want to do because I think that again, you damaged a book, 125 book, and then the store that creates that book creates the Virgin variant. They also get a stack of the 125 books. So, that's what ends up happening. But so it's real tough. I see Blue Green Artifact says, I bought the Virgin from Slabbed Heroes, not the trade dress. See, again, somebody chose to buy the Virgin, and I don't blame you. I would too. And especially it's smart grabbing the 9.8 from Slabbed Heroes. So, I that's just what ends up happening in that scenario is that regular.
I just put a link in the chat. Anyone looking for that Kubert black cover and a 9.8, Slabbed Heroes has it for $50.
Oh, and I hadn't seen that. That you want to talk about? I was just about to talk about that. You want to talk about an exceptional value? Is that book for $50?
There's only one left.
The book is gorgeous. Somebody needs to grab that book because the book is gorgeous. And you talk about a black cover, it's going to be a tough 9.8. If you try to pick this out on your own, you're going to have a hard time. Taking that guaranteed 9.8 from Nick from Slabbed Heroes is probably the way to go on that. But if you ask me as a speculator, looking at that book, that book's already seeing some sales hitting into the double digits. If you were to ask me, do I want to invest $25 in the Gronoff 125, or would I rather invest $25 in, say, 4 or 5 of the Kubert variants? I think my money would be safer in 4 or 5 of the Kubert variants. I think you'll probably see a better return on your investment long term.
Right, and I didn't pick any of these up, and it was a money thing because, like I said, I've been buying too much off Nick's site. I did pick up his 1 in 10, the Delato Daredevil variant. He had one up there, so I picked that up. But yeah, that's been hurting. He's been hurting my Wednesday Warrior budget, that's for sure. But so yeah, Return Wolverine. Next up for Variant Buzz. That's kind of it. That's it, right?
Yeah,
sure I got them all.
That's the last one.
I've been known to skip them. So real quick before we get into his long-term play here, people in the chat, we had more people coming in chat. Bolo 179, A Borrego 1977. Both of those, their comments were awesome about the store variants. We loved. So we did take feedback from all those comments, by the way, even though we could only pick one winner. All the comments people provided were great. Adam Lebednik, we all know him. If you guys read the Wednesday one on comicbookinvest.com, that's the guy who was writing it. But there's going to be some changes. But he's been super busy, but I do want to give a big shout out to him. So if you have been reading the Wednesday one, I'll say it like this because horrible delivery on my part. He's crushed the Wednesday one. It's one of the most commented articles on comicbookinvest.com. He's taking a leave of absence from that article. Huge shout out to him. He's going to be pursuing some certifications in his IT career. So huge shout out to him. And we can go ahead and we'll just announce it on here that Jack, and it's going to take Jack and myself to fill his shoes on that article. Put it that way. So.
Right. So that's an official announcement here. That hasn't been announced anywhere else yet. But yeah, Adam has been an absolute crucial member to CBSI. From the social perspective, the numbers that he does on the Wednesday one are absolutely, they're killer. And trying to step into his role and fill his shoes every Wednesday morning is daunting, very daunting. But Brian and I are excited. We think that Adam has done such a great job that we are actually going to change. You're going to see some changes to the Wednesday one because I don't think we could do justice trying to do the same thing Adam's been doing. So you're going to see some things a little different. But we definitely hope you still rock with us as now you have the weekly picks from Brian from Simpleman's Comics. You have the Bolo list from a.k.a. Mr. Bolo. And now we will come together on the Wednesday one. And we are absolutely excited to be CBSI's release day kind of guys. We're here to bring you New Comic Book Day from a CBSI perspective on comicbookinvest.com.
That was my yeah, we're tough. Hang in. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. But hey, yeah, definitely huge shout out to Adam. When it was first asked, I was nervous because you're always worried that your content won't be as good as the person that was doing it before, or you have a lot to live up to. So yeah, huge shout out to Adam on that. Great job on the Wednesday one, and may you pass all your certification tests on the first try.
Yes.
There we go. He said my kung fu is strong. I watched Karate Kid. And
come back to us when you're done.
Yeah,
there will
come back.
Yes, because you are a much-needed member of comicbookinvest.com, and your spot will be there waiting.
And if you guys are in there and you see the article we start putting out, we welcome all your feedback. Comment on the article. Like I said, we might need some massaging, but yeah, we have some ideas in place, and we can hope we can do Adam justice. That's all I have to say about that. So, long-term play.
Yes. So, I was on Monday night, Tales from the Flip Side, podcast that CBSI puts out. It's a great podcast if you're not following, if you're not listening. Brian here is actually a member of the show on a regular basis. Again, that's Tales from the Flip Side. You should check that out right now. Go subscribe. Every Monday night, they're on, what's it, Brian, 9:30?
9:30 Eastern.
9:30 Eastern. So I made my first appearance on the Flip Side podcast, and we got a chance to get into a little bit of talk on Umbrella Academy. And I know if you're looking at the Bolo list, you're seeing Sharky the Bounty Hunter, and you may be saying, well, what does that have to do with Umbrella Academy? Well, the key is Netflix. Umbrella Academy is a smash hit. And it is a smash hit in a different way than comic book shows are a smash hit. Because it is a smash hit with a crowd outside of what the typical comic crowd is. You're having a lot of comic fans, wives, and girlfriends jumping on the show. And not in the way they jump on, say, Arrow and Flash, Stephen Amell's Hot, or, yeah, I'll tolerate it while you're watching it type thing. They are into the show. And you're seeing it shared on social. You're seeing celebrities who don't have any affiliation to the comic book community commenting on Umbrella Academy. And what this points to is the reach of Netflix. We are in an age of a changing television kind of system. There's cord cutting is prevalent, and Netflix has become the largest network. Furthermore, Netflix is moving from a system of putting content out by other producers, say Marvel and things like that, to trying to create their own content. And This is going to provide an avenue for independent comics like you've never seen. And their reach is larger. So, yes, the DC streaming service is amazing. I'm sure Disney Plus will be amazing. But I can guarantee you more people are watching Umbrella Academy right now than will watch Doom Patrol. So, this brings me to Sharky the Bounty Hunter, which is released this week from Image Comics. And it is released from Mark Miller, whose Miller World imprint was purchased and is now found a home for all of their distribution at Netflix. This book was co-created under this Netflix version of Miller World. And if you actually look at the back cover of the book, it features the Netflix logo similar to the way store variant covers feature logos, the way our variant featured the comicbookinvest.com logo. But yeah, so this book is about a bounty hunter who is down on his luck financially, has some gambling debts. Issue number 1, it was a great read. It's the third book I read. I read Die number 1, the third print. I read Sharky the Bounty Hunter, and I read Incursion. And I absolutely loved Sharky the Bounty Hunter. It didn't give you a ton of story in issue 1. What it did is set up more the personality and character of the main character. And you immediately, upon reading it, just feel like you can see it in a big screen. I hope they cast Christopher Maloney or I'm drawing a blank on who plays Negan. Somebody can probably throw that out in the chat. Or maybe Ron Perlman as the main character. But it is really an impressive book, and they gave you enough to get you hooked for the second issue. But really, this one I'm going to go ahead and just leave the reader buzz out of it, and I'm just going to talk speculation. Because of the audience that these Netflix books have the potential to reach, I think that they have the largest spec potential of any books. If I was to say, play devil's advocate with me and tell me why this book isn't going to be a big book, you're going to tell me print run. Well, here's the thing I'm going to tell you about print run. Print run only matters when we're talking about the comics community. 100,000 is a lot of books if we're just talking typical comics fans. But if we start talking about a show that's going to get 20, 30, 40 million viewers and becomes a show that has, say, the passion of some of the other releases that Netflix has put out, when you look at the way Stranger Things has been able to merchandise, when you look at the sensation that Bird Box was, and even movies that are panned critically at times, like Bright, become big phenomenons and merchandise kind of mavens. So I think when you look at that, what Miller World is set up to do is going to be big. And the other thing that you hear from people is they're going to bring up old Miller World spec. They're going to say, well, you know, this didn't work or that didn't work. And you can talk about Kick-Ass and you can talk about whether
Secret
it's
Service.
Wanted. Yeah, Secret Service, Wanted, and, you know, some of these books. And yeah, I hear you. But this is a different game. It's a whole different game. And if you want to bring up those, I'll bring up a couple ones that you can make money on right now. You know, with Huck and with Reborn. Reborn, when it came out, was a prime example of a book. Every expert speculator told you, stay away. It's too big. There's too many copies. It's you know, it's too much. And now that book is trending towards a $15 to $20 cover A, $10 to $15 in a lot of the other like B, C, D variants, and the incentives are blowing up and taking off. We've seen them on the Variant Heat Check. We've seen that book represented on the Hot 10 comics list on comicbookinvest.com. So I think that you're seeing something happening right now in the market. And as speculators, another thing we talked about on one of the live streams that I did is the difference between speculation and investing. When you're investing in something, you're putting your money in something hoping that you will get a rate of return on it. You don't necessarily have to have any sort of reason for that investment. Somebody could tell you it's a good idea. It could be based upon some inside knowledge, prior knowledge, some sort of fandom. But a speculation is when you are banking on something based on a specific belief, but that you don't know to be true. So do I know that these Miller World books are going to take off similar to the way Umbrella Academy has taken off? No, I don't know that. But Umbrella Academy is selling over $100 in a free comic book issue because of the popularity of the series. So it gives you a ceiling, it gives you potential, it lets you know what's out there and what's available to you. And I think that if you're ever going to jump on the Miller World stuff, it's now or never. You got to get on these books. You got to get on your Huck. You got to get on Reborn. You've got to get on Magic Order is a book that's being completely forgotten about. It's another one that was released with under the Netflix imprint post Netflix deal, and then now we've got Sharky the Bounty Hunter, which I think will be an exciting, fun one. And today, Mark Miller tweeted that he read the screenplay to the film and that it's more exciting than the comic. If you like the comic, you're gonna love the film. So I am extremely bullish on these Netflix properties. It is not a pump. I certainly have no knowledge that any of these things are gonna do what they do. But if the shows and movies are as widely accepted as some of the other things that have been produced by Netflix, then speculators are going to see a real boom. And I'm not comparing to Walking Dead because Walking Dead is a dangerous comparison. But there's a reason Walking Dead became a $1,000 book. And yes, a lot of it has to do with scarcity and print run, but it's also the absolute massive fan base of Walking Dead. And that's what a show can do. And that's what indie comics has a better opportunity to do than, say, Marvel or DC, which fall under that superhero trope. And these indie comics can appeal to a wider audience. So if you haven't picked up Sharky the Bounty Hunter, I would suggest you grab it. If you're talking about picking variant cover, I saw people in the chat say they went with the sketch cover. Some people like the Scalera cover. I personally grabbed a little bit of all of them because I truly don't know which one is going to pop in the market. I find a lot of times that sets sell well when books pop. So if you want to look at that. But there's like 7 covers. So if you grab, say, 5 copies of 7 covers, you're looking at 35 books. So it's not the cheapest investment, but like I said, at cover price, now's the time to jump in on this book.
I think you make a good point. I tend to lean towards the other side of it though, with the past history of Mark Millar, because we went through that with Reborn's hot right now. Prodigy, as Bolo said, picked up. I just see a bad track record. Excuse me, bad track record of stuff that's optioned before release, like Outcast. Like it got hot. Now you make a point if you're saying spec versus investment. Spec to me is more short term. So yeah, I think you'll be able to do some flipping, but you gotta know when to flip it, know when to hold them, when to fold them, right? Because you saw it with Hit Girl got hot and dropped. All those other ones you mentioned, Jupiter's Legacy was one.
But there you're still banking on. It's a different game when you're trying to get people to go to a movie theater. When you're trying to get people to go to a movie theater and you got all that competition. When you got Netflix and you're already paying for it and all I got to do is click play, that's a whole different ball game. And that audience is much bigger. So I definitely understand that thought process, and I get it, and I see speculators going into that. But for me, anything with that Netflix imprint, I'm going hard on. Even more so, when I say anything with that Netflix imprint, I mean the books to really target, in my opinion, are the books that Netflix is developing themselves. So like Reborn, everything from Reborn and after. So Reborn, Magic, Order, Prodigy, and Sharky the Bounty Hunter. Those are the books that I think have the best chance because Netflix had a hand in them. Netflix is involved in the promotion. Netflix is involved in immediately producing scripts and casting for them. We already see Sandra Bullock attached to Reborn. Apparently, they're already looking to cast in Sharky the Bounty Hunter. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I totally get the Mark Miller feeling, but I think it's a different ballgame with this Netflix deal. I think he's in the best position of any independent creator right now.
So real quick, before we move on with that, I think because that past track, right, with Miller and the spec, and people specking high on Secret Service and all that, which if they did it right at the beginning, they made some bucks off it. But I think with people having that mentality, and if something big with Netflix happens, the people that did buy in will be better off because the trend was to go against it. Mm-hmm. From like me, I'm not going in on it, and if I lose out, I lose out because I'm not Sharky. All right, same with Prodigy. People are like, "Man, you're reading Prodigy." I'm like, "No, I'm just not." To me, Mark Miller always does good stories. It's just so much.
Yeah, see, I guess for me, it's not even Miller. It's just that Netflix. What hooked me was watching Umbrella Academy. Which has nothing to do with Mark Miller. It's just sitting there watching that quality of a show and saying, man, if Mark Miller's stuff is put on this platform with this audience and this quality, anything can happen.
Right. And then, I mean, you could look at also like, I'm trying to keep it where you're saying with the spec being more short term, because looking at the Netflix Marvel shows, there was spec there and books sold, and then they kind of died off.
Right, but again, that's where it's a smaller audience. Iron Fist appeals to a much smaller audience than Umbrella Academy does. So, you don't have to know anything about their world to start watching this. If you're not a Marvel Comics fan, then Iron Fist may be tough for you. And if you are an Iron Fist and a Marvel Comics fan, Iron Fist is still tough for you because they spend so long explaining who everybody is.
Right.
So I think that was kind of some of the issues there. That's why I think indie books have the best kind of potential. And I think that is the platform where long term they could see real success.
I think that's one good thing about indie books, because indie books a lot of times tend to be miniseries, like 1 to 6, 8 issues tops, which makes easier material to create movies and video media off of. But
yeah, and that used to be a big negative. Is people used to say, "Well, it's a miniseries, so don't speculate on it because it won't build long-term readership." But nowadays, you're right. Miniseries is look at God Country. Miniseries is a lot of times are easier to sell to Hollywood.
So yeah, I'm not totally knocking your argument. Well, I'm not knocking your argument at all. You make a good point. I'm just viewing it from the other side, and offer it there. But moving on, so that covers the Bolo list. Something new for the second week that Jack's been adding in is the trade report, right?
Correct.
So this week on with the trade report, what you first had was some #1 volumes for 2018 titles, and the first one was Captain America, correct?
Right. So like we talked about a couple weeks ago, I think that you mentioned that you had started reading Captain America and fell off. So this week is a great opportunity for any readers who hadn't jumped on some Marvel titles that have been popular with readers to get an opportunity to jump on the volume 1s and kind of get caught up and see if it's for you. So we had the release of Captain America, the 2018 volume, which is written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. We have the release of Punisher, the 2018 volume 1, which is written by Matthew Rosenberg, which has also gotten a lot of rave reviews. And then we've got West Coast Avengers, which has a multitude of first appearances and cameos of new characters, has been a comedy title. If you're looking for something kind of off the beaten path, a little more fun in the Marvel universe, that's kind of been a popular read. It's especially popular with younger crowd and a female audience. But it's a good opportunity to get to jump in on some on some Marvel Volume 1s and get caught up and see what you like.
Right. I read the first issue of West Coast Avengers. Wasn't my cup of tea, but I could see the demographic that it would attract to with, like you mentioned, like the younger teenagers and stuff like that. Next one you had on there was what? Secret Agent Deadpool, right?
Right. And so this is another one. This is another great trade. This is why I wanted to make the trade report. Is I wanted to make people aware of some of these great reading opportunities. This is a story that previously was only released via digital release. It was released as a 6-issue miniseries. It was a Comixology exclusive, and it is being printed and sold for the very first time and it released on Wednesday in comic shops. I think it was like $17.99. And so for any of you like myself, who I do a little bit of digital reading when I want to try to get, so if I want some information on a comic for speculation reasons, I'll jump on and buy a digital copy to read. But that's usually about it. I really don't love reading digital. I'm old school. I like sitting down with the book. So I'm a trade guy. So I was excited to see this story. It's one that I think I want to pick up and read myself. I didn't grab it yesterday, but I've got a running trade paperback list, and it's definitely added on there. It got really good reviews when it first came out, and you don't see a lot of these digital first series making it to print, so it had to be pretty popular to get there.
Right. So then after that one, you had make sure I get the freaking Incredibles, right? I don't know if I had the right cover there because I was searching last time. I had the wrong cover for one of the books, but The Incredibles 2.
Right, yeah, that is the right cover. So yeah, so Incredibles 2, it features 3 different stories from Dark Horse publications. The reason I wanted to feature this is a lot of us have kids. I think we get wrapped up a lot of times in the speculation and this, that, and the third, and we talk about things that are good and healthy for the hobby, but kids being involved in comics is essential. We saw the dying of the baseball card market in the 2000s because they basically priced children out of the market. I was a baseball card store manager at the time, and it became really difficult for kids coming in. It became tougher for store owners to try to connect with kids. So it's essential for the lifeblood of our hobby to take a 5-year-old and to get them into comics so that when they're 10, they're buying comics on their own, so that when they're 25 and 35 and they've got disposable income, they're here watching the Bolo live stream, which will still be running, and it'll be the biggest thing on YouTube. But so I put this book on the list because Incredibles has been incredibly popular with children. This features 3 new stories in the vein of Incredibles 2. They are exclusive to this book, so it collects the 3 stories that came out. So if you've got children, if they dug the Incredibles, if they dug Incredibles 2 like my kids did, I think it's a really good pickup. I also want to say this book is like $9.99, so it's real cheap. It's real cheap. It's an easy purchase. Let's get kids into comics and reading comics because that's the only way this hobby survives. It's not going to be speculators that kill this hobby. It's not going to be variants or things like that kill the hobby. It's going to be people in the hobby not continuing to grow and get into the hobby. So, and if you're looking for a good channel for children's comics, check out John's Comics with Kids on YouTube. John's a great guy, and his name's John. I think John Jameson or John, but John's Comics with Kids. Check him out. He's got 2 adorable daughters, and they do a lot of kids books and reading together, and so on and so forth. And you should definitely check that channel out. He does a lot of live streams and cool stuff.
So I've been trying to get like my 7-year-old indoctrinated into comics. And I took him to Free Comic Book Day, I took him to Halloween Fest. He picked up, of course, like Halloween Fest, he picked up Splatoon because he loves the game. But one of the books that he's been reading a lot of is Dogman. Mm-hmm. Dogman, and then of course that's from the creators of Captain Underpants. So he reads Captain Underpants and then Dogman, and enjoys reading those. But I'm happy just to see him reading, and he has this his favorite book is this Pokemon book that's basically like the encyclopedia of Pokemon, and it's got like all the characters, and he's like, you want to see all the characters from Water? I don't know. I don't even know it all, but he likes to recite them to me and what they can evolve to and stuff like that. So I'm just happy he's reading. But the next one on your list,
I don't care. Go ahead. I was say I don't care what Bill Maher says. Comic books kids reading comic books, adults reading comic books is a good thing. It really, for kids, I've seen so many kids learn to read and be more comfortable reading through comic books. And for adults, there's plenty out there for us to read that is at a high intelligence level. We see on a regular basis, like I said, with Incursion.
And yeah, Blue Green Artifact says his 7-year daughter loves Dogman also. And I've seen it like at my LCS, man, when they come in asking for books for kids. A lot of times they get recommended Dogman, and then you'll say, oh yeah, well we already have the first 5 volumes or whatever. We're waiting on the next one to come out. But yeah. So they enjoy that. So the next on here you had was Bully Wars, right?
Right. It's got a little Scotty Young image. I think it's a mini-series. So I think this collects the entire story, I'm pretty sure. But it was a highly anticipated Scotty Young series that I think he premiered at the Image Expo. But it from a speculation standpoint, it did not pop off. I know that issue number 1 ended up on, it was either Midtown or TFAW's Black Friday dollar sale list. I think we actually boloed it because I think in today's adaptation world and with what animated features are doing both on big screen and on streaming platforms, you can never rule anything out, especially when you're talking about a book. But
yeah, I know the CBLDF cover did pretty decent, which had like the fart or something like that.
Right, yeah. It was one of those, like, there was 2 versions of the cover. There was like an edited and then unedited CBDLF or whatever, Comic Book Defense League. But yeah, I know that one did pretty well. Outside of that, the series itself didn't cause speculation on issue 1. But I think it was a good buy at $1 at the time. I think when you can pick up series like that, you do it. I think it's only a matter of time. Scotty Young is starting to also create a portfolio for himself of characters and stories, and I think it's only a matter of time before someone like Netflix grabs a Scotty Young and starts grabbing all of his characters. But this is an opportunity for you to read it, to take the speculation out of it. The complete story is now in your LCS, and if you dig Scotty Young, if you like that irreverent style, if you're into kind of crass humor, give this book a look and check it out. I haven't personally read the book, but it was one that piqued my eye immediately, and I said, well, maybe I would check it out and trade.
Yeah, it's something I could see, like Cartoon Network almost.
Mm-hmm. An Adult Swim style.
Yeah. But the next you had a couple omnibuses, right? One was Captain Marvel, which I think you discussed the other cover last week, or I had the wrong cover on it.
Right. Well, we talked. Yeah, you had this cover last week. We talked about this. So this is the open market book. So this was the one. The other one was the direct market. It went to comic book shops, and that featured the Miss Marvel #1 cover. And this, the Amanda O'Connor cover, went to bookstores like Barnes and Noble and so on and so forth. But LCS has actually got it this week. So if you were somebody that wanted the Amanda Connor cover over the vintage cover, I don't know why in the world you would want that. But if you were somebody, this week it was available. Also, I know a lot of stores don't order a lot of omnibuses. So a lot of stores only order 1, 2, and may have sold out. If you missed it and you just wanted to read and you don't care about the cover, you might want to check back with your LCS as they've got more coming back in stock from the release this week.
Yeah, one thing I would also, if you're interested in this omnibus or any of the new Marvel omnibuses, go on Amazon and read reviews of people that have bought them, because some people have issues with these new Marvel omnibuses. The binding on them isn't very strong, and like they're saying after reading it, that it's already starting to come off the binding. And because I wanted the new or the re-release of the Walt Simonson Thor omnibus, but I always held off of it because I always see a bunch of reviews saying that the binding was bad and the book started falling apart on them. And me, I would pick up the other cover. I'm not big on to me, the Amanda Connor Captain Marvel has like a man face. And
that's kind of Amanda Connor. That's kind of what she does.
But she does Harley decent. But so the last one of the omnibus is one near and dear to my heart, and I have it pre-ordered on Amazon, and that's the He-Man Masters of the Universe DC omnibus.
Yeah, so I didn't know this was coming out, and this was almost a huge at the register impulse purchase that I almost made, because I had it on the list, because when I saw it, I said, oh my man, that's something I want to check out. And then when I was at the LCS and it was sitting in front of me, it was very tempting to go ahead and drop that right then and there. But this is released by DC Comics, the He-Man Masters of the Universe omnibus. It features every story that DC has told. So it features the first appearance, the DC Presents. It also features all of the He-Man Eternity War stuff, and the regular He-Man Masters of the Universe DC series. So it's a big book, lots of issues to go through here. And I think, again, I'm real bullish on 80s, 90s properties. I think that the decision makers in Hollywood, the decision makers over household budgets, are now people from our generation, 30s, 40s, 30-year-old, 40-year-olds, who grew up on Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and these type of properties. And some of these properties that haven't seen success in the market, like Masters of the Universe, like G.I. Joe, like Transformers, I think are going to get to see their day. And we know that they've been working on a Masters of the Universe movie for some time. So it's been in play in Hollywood. We've seen various actors attached to it. And most of us, children of the 80s, are chomping at the bit to get a Masters of the Universe movie that we truly deserve. But yeah, this is a great chance if you haven't checked out Masters of the Universe since you were a kid, and maybe you want to jump back in. This is an excellent opportunity to get a whole bunch of Masters of the Universe all in one sitting. You basically get everything minus the time that they were on Image.
Right. Sorry. I would also check, if you look for it, I haven't checked on there yet, but InStockTrades.com usually has good prices on trade paperbacks and omnibus. I usually go through Amazon just because of Amazon Prime, but you usually get it a little bit later through Amazon than you could at your LCS and some other places. But anyhow, I definitely am happy to get it. I got a pre-order. I forget when it comes out. It comes out in March on Amazon, but I forget what the date is. So, and that's going to basically wrap up the trade report, and I'd say pretty much the show tonight. We had some technical difficulties to begin with. We started 3 times. We had some audio issues. We had some issues on my end with starting the stream, but definitely appreciate everyone that tuned in. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Appreciate it even more if you'd hit that like button for us. And if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing, so that way you're always here and get notified of not only my live stream, but other comic and pop culture related content. And the last thing I will say before I hand it over to Jack for the last word is, we talk about all these comics, but in the end, it's your collection, it's your money. Buy what you like. Jack, you get the last word.
Well, I think that is some excellent advice. I want to say, be sure to check out comicbookinvest.com. We certainly appreciate the kind of avenue they've given us to kind of speak and talk comics and speculation. So be sure to check comicbookinvest.com. Be sure, I know a lot of people get the Bolo list from either YouTube or from IG, but be sure you're checking out the Bolo list article on comicbookinvest.com, because now we have back issue Bolos. It's an entire article written by myself, featuring back issue books that you should be checking out on that Wednesday when you're hitting your LCS. So if you're already in your LCS buying new release books, you might as well hit those back issue bins and see what is going to pop because of these current releases. And, you never know what you may see on a Hot 10 or, in coming weeks. So be sure to check that out, and make sure you're also following us on Instagram, and check us out on Twitter. We just started working with the Twitter today, getting kind of Twitter moving. So make sure you're following us on all those avenues and everywhere that comicbookinvest.com is.
And with that, we'll wish you guys a good night, and we'll see you next Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern. So if you're not on Eastern, it'll be a different time. All right. Good night, guys.